You know, things are really effed up when you have to defend a movie from people who should know better. They're supposed to be intelligent people who you would expect. They call themselves DCU fans. They even call themselves Zack Snyder fans. And they supposedly can find the depth in his movies. So, this is a reference talking about Zack Snyder's version, all the deleted scenes of Justice League. All of a sudden, deleted scenes of Justice League is a big issue, right? So we're going to go into it because I'm tired of dealing with people who they're not dealing with facts. You know what they're dealing with? They're dealing with hindbrain reactions, and they are programmed to think a certain way. The media has been spinning and spinning that it's Whedon versus Zack, and Joss Whedon's going to do something. And I told you guys, if you have ever watched my videos, that Joss Whedon was only going to streamline what Zack's vision was. And he had to cut things and leave them on the cutting room floor. We heard that Iris West was cut out of the movie. She didn't have a pivotal role in the movie. But let's go. Let's go. These are the scenes that were cut. This is an account. This was given to me by, I forgot the guy's name. These shots were done before the reshoots and were only shown to WB executives, aka idiots who don't appreciate art. So they're calling the executives idiots who don't appreciate art. Let's go. So he had a longer scene. This is with Bruce recruiting Aquaman, and it was basically the same scene as I saw in the theatrical version this weekend. However, some lines were added by Whedon and some Zack bits were cut. Aquaman was originally more resilient and shut off to Bruce here. So, effectively, what this guy is saying that what you see in the movie is basically what you see in the movie. Alright? So, did we need to see that variation of the movie? No. But, let's just go on. Let's just see if it really changes Zack's story. Deleted. Barry Allen visits the library because he knows that Iris West is there. He tries to talk to her, but fumbles and blushes. He mentions that he might go and see his dad today. Iris likes his awkwardness, but doesn't think he's all that special. We see Barry breaking the window with his finger to kind of impress Iris or first look at his powers. When everyone and Iris are surprised at his window breaking, Barry just says, "Weak glass," and walks out. Actually, that's not the deleted scene. I don't know where they got that from. But actually, Barry breaks the glass because he's seeing Iris crashing into a truck. Okay, that's the actual scene. And the car hits the truck. And then we see an animated version of Iris West in CGI. And Barry is racing towards the CGI Iris West. And she's flying from the car. And the car is flipping in the air. And he catches her in the air. And he puts her down on the ground. And the car goes careening off and blows up against some other cars. Okay, that's what really happens. And the truck moves off. Now, I told you guys about a car hitting a truck. And Barry was seeing it through a window. So I don't believe in this account. This account is actually off. Longer, the history lesson with the Amazons fighting Darkseid's forces, just by some bits. What I was most surprised by was WB cut out the dialogue by Green Lantern, Zeus, and even Ares. Yes, he was there too. And they had a couple of lines each, as Robin Wright and Hippolyta. They just kept the action in and clicked out all the dialogue, I guess. So they shortened up the scene because it was not relevant. You didn't need to have all the dialogue. It was relevant to them fighting Steppenwolf. And Diana was narrating the thing anyway. Deleted. After taking the mother box from Themyscira, Steppenwolf actually talks to the box. His mother, Hegra's essence, is alive in the mother boxes, and bringing them all together would unleash her powers, finally giving Steppenwolf an edge over his uncle Darkseid. That is what his plan was originally. I thought for sure that they would keep this scene in because they used the dialogue from the scene in the trailers. No protectors here, no lanterns. This world will fall. You will be free, mother. So maybe this is some version of Justice League that this guy actually saw, and he said that this scene was deleted from it. Once again, no relevance to us, really, because we knew that Steppenwolf was exiled. He wanted the mother boxes to terraform the earth into into the apocalypse. This was the more important thing. But apparently that's why he was calling the boxes mother. And mother, you're calling to me, because his mother is Hegra and her essence was in the boxes. So apparently that's the meaning. It would have added a little bit more meaning to Steppenwolf, because we knew that he was tired of his uncle. He was trying to get out from underneath of Darkseid. But again, the plot of the story, it doesn't change much of the plot or story of the story. Deleted. Cyborg's previous life. He plays a great football match that his mother, yes, she was cast well, attends. Afterwards, they drive home. Victor's angry that his dad never made it while his mother tries to console him. He gets angry and lashes out, loses control of the car, crashing, causing a fiery crash, which I guess kills his mother in the process. So that would have been a nice backstory of Victor, but again, it's not really relevant because we just touching on Victor. And already we knew he got in an accident. What was relevant is his father tried to save him. We saw pictures of the father and the mother. We didn't need to know that. It was not relevant to the story of the Justice League. We can get more of that in Cyborg's story whenever they have a Cyborg story. Longer. The Gordon scene had a little setup that I didn't see in the theatrical version. Gordon dismisses a junkie and tells him to get better at life before another cop comes to him with drawings of parademons. His conversation with the League also ran longer. First he asks Wonder Woman if she's the same woman he keeps seeing reports of in London. Then he asks Cyborg how does he eat? Does he even need to? All of these are irrelevant to the story and moving the plot forward. Obviously, if you guys have seen Justice League War, you would know that parademons were imitating Batman, and so it's not strange that James Gordon, the information in Gotham, seems to say that these abductions seem to be by Batman, because parademons kind of look like Batman and they fly. So again, this does not add to the plot or story, or shall I say, if it's removed, it doesn't take away from the plot or story. After the attack on Atlantis, Aquaman consults Mera and Vulko over what he should do next. Now we thought that Vulko was going to be in the movie, but actually Vulko was not, because that is cut out of the movie. Mera wants him to stay as king because she doesn't trust Orm, but Aquaman's not king yet, as we all know. Vulko wants him to do what his heart says. Aquaman confesses that he feels a responsibility to help the people on Earth. So that was rewired. Mera speaks to him. There are, I guess, many different alternative versions that Snyder may have shot as well. Deleted. The League visits the Batcave. Alfred has a humorous reactions to the League. Bruce Wayne talks about a nightmare he had. He believes that Steppenwolf will try and resurrect the power of Superman, and that they must do it first unless they want to fight an evil Kryptonian too. Makes sense. Steppenwolf will convert Superman into one of his own, and he must know the Kryptonian's dead. Maybe Lex Luthor hinted that to him somehow, some way. And also, that's how they probably knew about the mother boxes. But nonetheless, irregardless, the point is, this does not move the plot along. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't move the plot along because I do believe Zack Snyder was probably, they were trying to race to get Superman alive before Steppenwolf got to him. That would have been a Zack Snyder angle. I could see that. But the angle that they actually used with Superman, because they knew where Superman was, I like that better. I actually like that better. Okay? Now, in Superman's resurrection was only possible because Cyborg detects foreign genetic material in his DNA, aka the Codex. This is the final confirmation needed that Superman can be brought back to life after all. Then the revival pretty much happens the same way. So the part that was left out was that Cyborg had to check Superman's genetic material first. Okay, so maybe when they got to the ship, Cyborg checked out Superman's genetic material to see if that was possible, to verify what Batman was saying. They cut that out. Deleted. Deathstroke breaks Lex out of prison. They part ways because the cops are hot on their trail, deciding to meet up later at the location they discussed. So we just got it where they were meeting up in the post-credit scenes. Again, not a problem. Deleted. Kent Farm. Superman brings Lois there. He's still confused, not knowing what's happening. Bystanders are looking at him, clicking his photos. This confuses him further. He tries to attack the civilians with his laser eyes before Lewis manages to calm him down. Superman tells her that voices won't shut up. Later, Martha shows up, and Clark and Lewis are already inside the house. Clark is calmer now, but still very confused. His powers are going haywire, and his senses are heightened. Martha gives the picture the world as an island. Follow my voice, come back to me. Speech from Man of Steel, and it calms him down. Later, Clark is wearing a shirt. He sees Pa Kent. He has Kevin Costner's hair too out in the fields. He goes to see him. Pa Kent talks about embracing who you really are. He tells Clark that you may have made peace with who you are. You have the power to change the world, and you can do so as anyone, good character or bad. Clark finally embraces Superman's part of him when Lewis walks out. Clark confirms their engagement. Lewis breaks down before she wasn't strong enough. Then Martha comes out too. Clark decides to help the League and flies off. That's how it happened in, not your version, dude, in Snyder's version. I may have paraphrased some of the dialogue, but that's basically it. That's a long, laborious version, which could confuse people because the last interaction with Pa Kent was very confusing. So I can see this being too convoluted and people getting confused by it. Okay? So Whedon shortened it up and basically had Superman interact with Lewis. That focused him in instead of having his mother come and make him focus on all of that. That focused him in. He remembered who Batman was, and he started to zone in. So he zoned in a lot faster, which kept the pace of the movie moving along. So, again, a lot of you guys, Clark heads up to meet Alfred and get his suit. I mean, that's irrelevant. We don't need that. Steppenwolf's second conversation with Hegera. Now he has all three mother boxes. Her return to this world can begin. Well, we heard part of his discussion like that. But they deleted out Hegera. So in other words, they didn't want to keep all this complication. They decided, okay, he's just going to talk about the three mother boxes and the unity, which was more important, okay? Bruce's conversation with Diana after Superman returns. Diana comes in to pop Bruce's shoulder and tend to his injuries. Bruce reveals that he's willing to die to save the world. In fact, he says he deserves to die because of what he's done. He killed people and nothing, not even his hate for Superman, can justify killing like that. Diana tells him that he's changed now, but Bruce remains adamant that he can only atone himself by sacrificing his life. So that would explain why he decided to go after the tower to take it out, and they had to go after Steppenwolf and the boxes. But I actually like the dialogue that Whedon had, actually. So that makes more sense to me, because Batman always works alone. So it's funny that when when Aquaman was saying a strong man is strong alone, that Batman should know better. He should know what Aquaman is saying. But in fact, he tries to propose the alternative. And yet here he is trying to kill himself, right? Bruce's Batmobile is headed to certain death during the finale when Wonder Woman and Aquaman interfered to save his life. They tell him that dying in battle won't do anything and he must live to keep the fight going. Again, that is kind of basically the same thing. Aquaman tells him, you kind of crazy, you have a death wish, and Bruce throws back at him, you just have a pitchfork, you know what I'm saying? So effectively, we realize Batman had a death wish, and so that again has kind of been understood. Alternative ending we were shown. Cyborg tries to separate the mother boxes while Hegera tries to talk him away. Furious Steppenwolf grabs him and rips him apart, essentially killing him. Well, you can't kill Cyborg, actually. But here's the interesting thing. We saw Cyborg trying to rip apart the mother boxes. I liked that he was still ripped apart by Steppenwolf, but Superman came into the equation. Superman joins the fight and teams up with the League to defeat Steppenwolf. However, at one point, Steppenwolf tries to tempt Superman into joining his army, and we see Darkseid for the first time in Superman's vision, and we see flashes of the nightmare footage. However, Superman snaps back from it and delivers the final blow to Steppenwolf, defeating him. Again, quite frankly, this is another dream sequence that would have confused the audience. So that's why Whedon streamlined it so that the whole team was actually fighting Steppenwolf, and we just cut out all that Darkseid stuff and so on. So it actually makes sense that this actually turned out this way. And then this deleted scene here, Steppenwolf is killed by Darkseid on Apocalypse. Darkseid intends to come to Earth to meet the Kryptonian. This is the follow-up, I guess. But this is absolutely not necessary at this point in time. So that was just left out. And I like that Steppenwolf in this movie, we don't know if he's killed yet. And he's like I said, he's like Captain Ahab. He may just come back again. All right. So I actually like the version that we saw on the screen more than this version here, which is kind of convoluted and complicated. Aquaman meets Mera off the village coast and agrees to come back. Barry steps into the library. Iris smiles at him cutely. See, again, Whedon probably tweaked this because there was a dialogue between Barry and his father, so they followed up with Barry and his father. And somehow I feel that Zack Snyder had footage of that. I don't think Whedon had footage. That might have been an alternate version that Snyder had. And Whedon used that instead. Because we see Aquaman sailing off into the sea, and there's a certain degree of unknown. We don't know we know Aquaman's going back to the sea. I prefer that than meeting Mera off the village coast. And I prefer Barry getting this job with his dad than going back to the library to see Iris West, and it has an unresolved issue with his father. And then Bruce and Barry place Victor's body in the Batcave, and Bruce comments that his organic tissue is dead, but maybe it's possible to reignite it. Again, this is just way too complicated and just way too convoluted. So I'm really glad that Cyborg was alive at the end there. And Lewis introduces Perry White to Clark Kent, aka Superman. I don't like that either, because I like that it's kind of open-ended on Clark Kent. Where he will go from here. Is he still working with the Daily Planet? I doubt it. But I like that they kept it open-ended, the way how Whedon did it, so that we could find out the possibilities. Because it's ridiculous for Clark Kent to just go back to the Daily Planet. And what? He's Superman now? Perry White knows he's Superman? How's everybody going to talk about his death? You know what I'm saying? The original after credit scene was shot in principal photography, and was Bruce being woken in the night by his lake house by a green light and being visited by Tomar, Ray, and Kilowog, which is the Green Lanterns. Okay. So, quite frankly, man, Whedon actually did Zack Snyder a favor. Okay, he did Zack Snyder a favor. Of course, I didn't like the flowers at the end that came out from underneath the ground, but the fight sequences and the fight with Steppenwolf and all of that stuff seem to have been basically the same. And a lot of it's Zack's footage. But that ending there by Joss Whedon is effectively a Zack Snyder ending. It's just that, again, it's not as convoluted. Zack tends to use dream sequences and some things, and if that was what was supposed to happen, because this person probably saw one of the early screenings, Harun Sharif, then I'm telling you right now, I'm kind of glad. I'm kind of very glad that Whedon had that kind of ending instead of this convoluted ending. Whedon kind of made it focused. He focused down the ending instead of having all of this stuff going on in the end. So I'm happy if that is really what happened. So for all of you guys who are like bitching and moaning, I think the cut that we actually got was the better cut, if you ask me. Okay? And the fact that it even takes 2 hours is actually good. And it's not much that's different to what we have already seen. And some of that stuff is just fluff. It doesn't serve the story. It doesn't help. It doesn't even give the background of characters. I would say that the Cyborg backstory with his mom, that has some relevance to the story. Would have enriched it. It would have been nice if Steppenwolf, we knew that he had a relationship where he was calling the boxes mothers because his mother was actually, his spirit was contained in the boxes. That would have made some sense, and that would have been good. But other than that, I don't really see anything else adding to this story, some depth to the story. The Green Lantern being talking with Zeus and what is it? It's not Hippolyta, Antiope and Ares. That doesn't serve anything for me. You know what I'm saying? Those things don't. They're added bonuses. Like those are like deleted scenes or alternative shots. All right, they're not necessary to the movie. So I'm going to say it once again. Joss Whedon did a hell of a job streamlining this movie. And for those of you, you know what? I need Zack Snyder to speak on this because, again, Superman being brought to life was Zack Snyder's idea. How he decided to go about doing it. It wasn't Whedon's idea. Okay? And even the ending, Whedon just cut out things again. All right? He cut out things, but the ending is more or less the same. The only difference is now you were saying that Cyborg would have died. Whereas in there, when Steppenwolf ripped Cyborg in half, he still stayed alive to help Superman open separate the mother boxes, and of course, Steppenwolf's mother's not mentioned as a spirit in those boxes. So they kept the story a little bit simpler, and I think that's a very good thing, because I can see how it would have been so convoluted at the end that nobody, people would have been in dream sequences and all that. Come on now. You need a nice, concise ending to the Justice League movie. And it felt, one thing that I got to give Zack Snyder, they all felt like Justice League members. I loved how Wonder Woman was moving her hands really very quickly and stuff. But yes, I want to talk about concepts in this movie, but I just wanted to show you guys, if this is what somebody said they saw, they must have changed the movie between that point and what Barry Allen saw in the library visit, because we have a scene where Barry Allen jumps out of the library and he runs to the car. He saves Iris West, who was, the car was flipping all over the place. They kept that out the movie, and I think they moved that from the movie again quite a while ago. Okay? Because it's not relevant to moving the story forward. We want to know things about Barry and what motivates Barry to be Barry Allen, the forensic scientist. And we get one step closer, and we didn't need to know all that other fluff. And this is what a lot of people don't realize. We didn't need to see all that other fluff. We got a nice standalone story. And with Zack's standalone story, Zack's photography takes, and in his direction of the actors, principally takes the majority of this movie. There's very little that Joss Whedon is actually doing in this movie after I actually saw it. It's principally Zack stuff. And I showed you from behind the scene footage, and you can go and look at the behind the scene footage and just see how much is Zack stuff. Okay? And Whedon did some reshoots, we know that. But at the end of the day, the part where, Superman says to Batman, "Do you bleed?" That comes from BVS, man. Straight out of BVS. And it's a harken back. And obviously, that's not Whedon's idea. That's obviously from Chris Terrio. And Whedon probably reenacted the scene. It's kind of like what he did with Cyborg. Kind of like what he did with the Mira and Aquaman scene. Kind of tweaked it a little bit, but it's more or less the same. It's just you may have one less member there, and they kind of make it more concise so you can get to the point, because he knew he had 2 hours to work it. I think it was just an excellent job by Joss Whedon maintaining Zack Snyder's story. You know what I'm saying? And Harun Sharif, I mean, I'm glad he kind of put this out, but to be honest with you, Harun Sharif, you just kind of confirm what I already knew, that Joss Whedon streamlined this movie a lot more so that it could be easier, more palatable to the general audiences. Imagine having all that convoluted shit up in, the audience would get confused like Batman v Superman. They'd have got confused the shit out of them. So I'm happy that it's not all this clutter inside of there. Alright, that's two spoiler debunking stuff I had to do. Alright, spread these videos, folks, but remember, if people haven't seen the movie yet, just spread it to people who have seen the movie. Or put a spoiler something. So if you go up in a Facebook group or whatever, put spoiler on top of it first, and then show people. Because honestly speaking, the outrage is ridiculous. Most people are making an outrage because, these things were cut from the movie and this was cut from the movie. They find out that after the fact. And you shouldn't be outraged about that. You should be happy to know that these are extra stuff that could have been in the movie, but they really didn't add to the plot or story of the movie. But they're fun to know about. You know what I'm saying? But when I look at what Zack Snyder's vision or version was going to be, it would have been too much for a casual audience. The casual audience wouldn't enjoy the movie as much. I think WB made the right decision, as they did with Suicide Squad. And they got this right. If they had dragged this movie on, it might have satisfied some more DCEU fans. But in the end, you would have more people castigating this movie. And the core fan base would have said, we liked it, but it still wouldn't have been the great shining light that everybody's talking about. And remember, it would have been desaturated. It wouldn't have the color tones and color palettes that they have now. So I disagree with these people. And I know Justice League will do well, because I am going to set the record straight on this sucker. I'm going to set the record straight on it. Not only that, but I will also encourage people to share it with other people, because I know the casual audience and the casual fan is really going to enjoy this movie. They're going to feel the tension in this movie. They're going to feel the horror in this movie. They're going to feel the sadness in the movie, and they're going to feel the joy and inspiration in this movie by the end of this movie. The payoff is wonderful. And there's a lot of depth to this movie. Don't let anybody fool you. There's a lot of depth to this movie that people take in, and I think they're going to take it in a little bit more subconsciously than consciously. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's a hell of a ride. I really liked it. It harkened back. It really was a tribute to Justice League 2001. If you know Justice League 2001, this definitely is a tribute to that, you know. So I don't care what anybody says. You guys go out there who enjoyed this movie and really enjoyed the daylights out of it. I got to go see it the fourth time. I'm going to go see it tomorrow, but I got to make some money in between and do what I got to do. I have an ad to get finished and put out there. But I just want to give a round of applause again to Joss Whedon, Danny Elfman, Junkie XL, Hans Zimmer, and Zack Snyder. Of course, Zack Snyder. Thank you, Zack Snyder. Thank you. Thank you, my brother. And I hope you do put out a statement, though, about this movie. And I hope you go and watch it. And bring your kids to see it, too. I know it has some jarring memories and some bad memories for your family, seeing that Autumn died. And I know it's a very touchy subject at this time. But, Zach, you need to... Well, I can't tell you what to do, my friend. I've never had that experience where I lost a loved one that close. I lost my dad back in 2014, and it really did affect me a lot. And I hope Zach can make it through the depression and all these other things that will come to his family. Deborah Snyder, they're such loving people. And I'm just wishing them the best. I really wish you the best, Zack Snyder. I thought that WB and Joss Whedon, they tried their best to honor you. Of course, only you could have done what you were going to do with this movie. But, Zach, please, put out a statement on this movie. Go watch it, or go with your family and watch it. Go with your kids and your family and watch this movie. It may be a tough thing to watch through, considering all you've gone through. So, maybe you will, maybe you won't. But I really, as a fan of these movies, and somebody who really was excited for this movie for many a reason, okay? Many, multiple reasons. I've suffered loss too in my life, and I see that your movie speaks about that. And it speaks about so many things, and it's just one of those things where I hope that, like the characters in the movie, like Wonder Woman, who suffered loss, like Batman, who suffered loss, I hope that you can come out of the shadows. And I hope you can be the hero that we see you to be. For me, you are my hero. You're a hero for me because you bring light in a dark world. And I mean, the movie said it all. I don't want to spoil it, so I won't spoil it in that. Oh yeah, I can spoil it. It's spoiler. You said only by knowing fear you can have courage. You said only by being in the darkness you can appreciate the light. And I hope that in this darkest hour in your life, where it seems as if there's no hope, that you can check out this movie. And if you have to cry, man. Whatever it takes to get that catharsis out of your system. And remember, your daughter, she always lives on. She lives on in you. She lives on in your children and anyone she's influenced. And no matter her struggles in life, you are here to continue her legacy. What she brought out is precious. And the time she spent with you and your family is precious. And she may be a hero to you, and now you get to be a hero in her honor to other people. So keep on shining your light, Zack Snyder. Keep on doing what you were born to do. Direct, challenge people and give these beautiful things which we as fans have received and will pass on. And to me, that's your legacy, man. You always wanted to do something beautiful and loving and kind and inspire the world, but in a concrete, not in a fantastical way, but in a concrete way in your movies. And, you know, depression is something that happens to all of us. I've went through it. I was suicidal myself. And I almost took my life, but God didn't want me to take my life at that time. It wasn't my time. I know what it is to see darkness, and there is no light. No light for miles. Anywhere. Just a cloud of darkness. Until you look in the mirror and you see the light. So I understand how dark it must be right now for you. But believe you me, you shine the brightest when it seems to be the darkest. So that's the beauty of a supernova. So I just hope that you can find that courage within you to check out this movie. Emotions are things that come and go. But principles, they can stand. And I believe if you stand for whatever principles you have, however you govern your life, if you stand for those things, then you will shine. Superman found out who he was. And he had nothing to fear after that. And he came back stronger. He came back faster. He came back better. Because he had nothing to lose anymore. And love drew him to focus. Got him to focus. So, I just think that even though this movie, especially the final part of the movie, wasn't executed exactly as how you wanted it executed, I still believe it accomplished what you set out to accomplish. The coming together over the ideals and idea of who Superman is. And when he came back, he not only embodied those ideals for the team, but now he shared those ideals with the team so that they could embody it as well as they worked together. And I thought that was pretty awesome. So, I'm hoping, Zach, you would check out the movie and your family, your entire family. You know, try to go as low profile as possible, or maybe catch it on a matinee or catch it very early. I know a lot of fans will see you and go berserk if they see you in the cinema, so I know you want to go low profile. Check it out or have a private screening or whatever you have to do. Just check out the movie. I know you know the technicalities, but maybe just tap into your heart and see it from your heart's perspective. And ignore the technicalities if it's possible. Just check it out from as someone who's just letting their heart feel it. Maybe difficult, maybe painful, but maybe it helped with some kind of catharsis. Who knows? So I just wanted to share that with Zack Snyder. If he ever gets this message from a guy way off in a very, very, very small island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. You guys have a great one.